you do lotus, do your knees touch the floor when sitting like this? If you can't, chances are you probably have quite tight hips. And maybe you've been doing yoga for a while, but you can't really see much of a difference. In this video, I want to show you a 4-step method that can help you increase your hip flexibility, and maybe you'll finally get into lotus pose. So in order to understand the steps, we need to understand the movements that will help us actually get into lotus pose. We want hip flexion, which is about bringing the leg closer to you. We want external rotation, which is about opening it up. And we want horizontal abduction, which is bringing the foot closer to your navel. So if we want to open our hips and maybe even get into lotus, then ideally we should work on all 3 movements. So step number 1 out of 4 is to do a pose which will help to lengthen our hip flexors, also known as our psoas muscles. So come to the floor with one leg out in front of you. Focus on rooting down through the top of your back foot and lifting up through your hip points to get the most from this hip flexor opener. And if you want a deeper stretch, what you could do is you could bring your right hand to the floor, lower your hips a bit more. You can either stay here, or an even deeper option, it would be to bend that right leg and then see if you can hold on to the foot and bring that foot closer to you. And this is quite a lot more intense for your right quadricep. Now I want you to hold this pose for 10 breaths if possible. Okay, moving on to step 2 of 4. This step is about encouraging the knees to come closer to the floor. So bring the soles of your feet together. If you notice that your knees are quite high up from the floor, this means that when we attempt to do lotus, our knees will also be quite far away from the floor. So one way to work on this is to work on a bit of resistance. So what we're going to do is, in our butterfly pose, it's nice to also do this against a wall if you want to sit against a wall. Otherwise, you can just do it sitting upright like this. Bring your hands approximately near where your knees are. Just make sure your knees are very, very happy, no complaining here. So what we're going to do is we're going to push up. We're going to resist into our hands for 5 breaths. So we're going to push up, and at the end of the 5 breaths, what we're going to do is we're going to see if our knees want to just come a bit closer to the floor, and try to repeat this 3 times, 5 breaths each. Step number 3 out of 4 is our favorite pigeon pose. So this is the most commonly practiced hip opening pose in a yoga class, and rightly so. It helps to open up the hip flexors, the groin muscles, and the muscles that will help with your external rotation. Now I want you to hold this one for 1 minute each side if possible. And finally, your 4th and final step is double pigeon pose. And so for our double pigeon pose, what we want to do is we want to bring our heel over our knee over our heel. And ideally we don't want any gaps. If there are any gaps, we can fill these with a yoga block. And if we're kind of somewhere like this, another option is to bring a block in front of you and place that right foot, the top foot, on the block. All of these options work great. So what we're now going to do is we're going to either stay upright if that's enough for you, or we're going to try to come forward, and you're really going to feel this in your right hip. So we're going to come forward, try to stay here for about 5 to 10 breaths. If you want, you can come to one side for another 5 breaths, other side, another 5 breaths, and repeat on the other side. I hope you noticed the difference in your hip flexibility. If you're looking for similar results with your hamstring flexibility, then be sure to check out this video here, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.